Lieutenant David Wren woke up to a strange sound. His room on Unity Arcadia, the largest space station in the galaxy, was usually quiet. But today, his datapad was blinking and making a cheerful tone he had never heard before. He reached over, still half asleep, and tapped the screen. A bright message appeared in glowing blue letters. Cultural bond assignment approved. Partner. Species X42. Name. Really. Relationship role, intimate companion. David stared at the message for a long time. He blinked. He read it again. Wait. What? He sat up quickly and rubbed his face. He was a soldier, not a diplomat. When he signed up for the Earth Union's cultural exchange program, he thought he'd be showing aliens how humans worked, maybe doing some peacekeeping or giving tours of Earth tech. He never imagined being assigned a partner, especially not. An intimate one? What does intimate even mean here? He muttered, frowning. Please let it mean something else in space. Just then, his door chimed. Before he could answer, it slid open with a soft hiss. A small figure walked in, no taller than David's shoulder. Her skin was a soft lavender color, almost glowing in the artificial light. Her large eyes sparkled like stars, and two thin, flexible antennae moved slowly on top of her head. She wore a long, shimmering coat with tiny, blinking lights stitched into the fabric. When she smiled, it was wide, warm, and full of excitement. "You're awake," she said in a high, musical voice. "Perfect timing. I brought you snacks." David stared in shock as the alien girl stepped forward, holding a tray of small, colorful cubes. "I'm really," she said cheerfully. "Species designation X42, emotional emissary. You and I are bonded now, how wonderful." David blinked again. "Bonded?" "Yes," she said, clapping her hands. "It's my duty and honor to share my culture with you and for you to share yours with me. That includes food, music, memories, stories, and emotional connection." She smiled again, this time with a tiny tilt of her head. "I studied human bonding for 6 months. Very dramatic. Very warm, I like it." David stood up slowly, holding his hands out. Whoa, wait, there must be some mistake. I didn't sign up for whatever this is," Really blinked. "You are Lieutenant David Wren, correct?" "Yes, then there is no mistake. Your form was matched with mine by the Harmony Council. You are human, and I am X42. We are now in Cultural Bond Tier 2. Exciting, yes?" David sat back down on the edge of his bed. "I thought I was here for training exercises. Maybe helping with station security?" Really nodded. "Yes, you are strong. That is why I picked you." "You picked me?" "Yes, I read about human traits, loyalty, bravery, empathy, curious minds, high emotional resistance. I needed a partner who would not cry too easily. That is you." David didn't know whether to feel honored or very, very nervous. Really took a seat beside him, offering one of the colorful cubes again. "This is a celebration treat from my world. It's called Xenofruit Blink Sugar. Try it. If you don't like it, I'll bring the fizzy kind instead." He hesitated, then took the smallest cube and bit it. It fizzed lightly on his tongue and tasted like a mix of blueberries and ginger. "Not bad. Okay," he said slowly. "So what now?" "Now," Really said, bouncing slightly with excitement, "we begin. I will help you feel emotions you never knew you had. And you will show me how humans enjoy things like movies, coffee, and punching stuff." David raised an eyebrow. "Punching stuff?" She nodded seriously. "I read that you enjoy physical training as a way of bonding. I'm very small, but I'm quick." He smiled, despite himself. "You read a lot about us, didn't you?" "Oh, yes, your stories are so dramatic. My favorite is the one where a space captain sacrifices his ship to save his crew." "Very human," David laughed. "That's fiction, not real." "I know," Really said, standing up. "But it tells me something true about you. You humans love deeply. You protect each other. That's why this program is working. Other species are learning what makes humans special." David looked at her more carefully now. She was odd, sure, and maybe too excited for 6 a.m., but her words were kind, honest, maybe even hopeful. He sighed. "All right. I guess we're bonded. Now, yes?" Really beamed. "You'll see. This will be the best pairing ever." You just have to open your heart and maybe your movie list? David chuckled. He didn't expect friendship or whatever this was supposed to be to come in a small purple package with antennae and fruit cubes. But maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be so bad. David Wren sat at a small table in the Unity Arcadia cafeteria. The food wasn't bad, some mix of earth rice and something green from a planet called Solari 3, but he wasn't paying attention to the taste. His eyes were focused on a digital guide titled Cultural Bond Tier 2, Interpersonal Harmony Handbook. He scrolled through it, eyebrows raised. Partners are encouraged to share private thoughts and personal objects. Physical closeness is considered respectful and trusting. Emotional sharing at least once per cycle is recommended. David rubbed his forehead. This is starting to sound more like dating than diplomacy. Riley sat across from him, her tray full of sparkling snacks and tiny bubble drinks. She was humming a cheerful tune, her antennae swaying gently. When she noticed his serious expression, she stopped and tilted her head. "Is the handbook confusing you?" she asked. Sweetly, "It's not confusing," David said. "It's surprising." "Oh, good. That means it's working." She smiled like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Really, this program, does your species see it as romantic?" Really blinked her big eyes. "Romantic? No, not unless we choose it. The purpose is connection. But for X-42s, like me, emotional closeness feels very deep. Some of us may fall in love, but that is not required." David relaxed a little. "All right. So this is about cultural understanding, not being soulmates or anything?" She leaned forward. "Unless you want that, of course." David nearly choked on his rice. "Let's just stick to understanding each other," Riley giggled. "Fair enough." She picked up one of her bubble drinks and sipped it through a thin tube. Then she looked at David again, more seriously this time. "Human emotions are very complex. I studied them. You pretend to be strong even when you are hurt. You carry sadness quietly. You laugh to hide fear. That's very noble, but it makes bonding difficult." David raised an eyebrow. "You're saying we're emotionally confusing?" "Yes," she said honestly. "But interesting. You think before you feel. I feel before I think. So we learn from each other." David smiled. That wasn't the worst explanation he'd heard. Just then, an announcement played over the cafeteria's speaker system. "Attention, all Tier 2 cultural bonds are invited to today's cooperation exercise in Simulation Room 7B. Really? Clapped her hands. "Oh, we're going to play the strategy game. I hope you're ready." David blinked. "Strategy game? I thought we were doing a test." "It is a test," Riley said, "but fun. We must solve a scenario together. It shows how well we communicate under pressure." Minutes later, they entered Simulation Room 7B. The walls glowed with soft light, and a large digital board showed a space station being attacked by pirate drones. Their task was to protect the station, rescue the crew, and stop the drones all. In under 30 minutes, David cracked his knuckles. "Now this I know how to do." "Let's begin," Riley said with a grin. The simulation started. David immediately pointed to the outer airlocks. "Block the main entrance." "I'll reroute power to the defense systems." "Too slow," Riley said calmly. "They've already breached the cargo bay." He turned to her. "How do you know that?" She pointed to a blinking light on the top left screen. "Their patterns show aggressive surprise tactics. I've seen this type in your human war stories. You read our war fiction?" "I studied everything," she said proudly. For the next 20 minutes, they worked as a team. David took the lead in defense while Riley managed communication and support. Every time he made a decision, she countered it with a faster or more clever one. At first, it annoyed him. Then it impressed him. By the end of the simulation, the station was safe, the pirates were captured, and the digital scoreboard showed 97% success. David leaned on the console, breathing hard. "That's the best I've ever done on one of these." "Really?" Beamed. "We're a good team. You think like a soldier. I think like a poet," he laughed. And somehow, that worked. As they left the simulation room, David felt a strange new thought in his mind. Maybe this bond wasn't a burden. Maybe it was a chance. Riley walked beside him, her steps light, her antennae dancing. I like your mind. David, it's sharp, but not cold. That's rare. He looked at her. I like your heart. It's open, but not weak. She smiled. That means our bond is real. He paused. You believe in bonds that fast? Yes, some things don't need time. Just trust. David wasn't sure if he believed that yet. But as they walked back to their quarters, talking about Earth movies and X-42 music, he felt something new blooming between them, not romance, not yet, but something just as powerful. Understanding. David Wren was just finishing his morning run. Through Unity Arcadia's observation ring when his wrist communicator buzzed. He tapped it, expecting a simple message from the training team or really asking about breakfast. Instead, a red alert flashed across the screen. Priority notice, all human delegates to report to Sector 3 Diplomatic Wing, security breach. Suspected. David's smile faded. He turned sharply and sprinted back toward the core lift. 15 minutes later, David entered Sector 3. It was normally the calmest place on the station, full of quiet meeting halls, polished floors, and tall glass walls that looked out into the stars. Today it felt tense. Alien delegates stood in nervous groups, speaking in low voices. Armed security drones floated above them, scanning every movement. At the far end of the hall, a tall Drexari representative stood with arms crossed. The Drexari were insectoid, tall, armored, with mandibles that clicked softly when they spoke. This is an insult, the Drexari said, his translator turning the sharp clicking into smooth words. Someone from your kind has violated our communication logs. David approached the group. Several humans were already there, including Officer Juno, the head of Earth's diplomatic security. She looked frustrated and tired. Lieutenant Wren. Glad you came, she said. You've worked closely with alien systems? We might need your help. David glanced at the Drexari, then at a nearby console showing encrypted data logs. What exactly happened? He asked. Juno replied, Last night someone accessed Drexari files that were restricted. The signal path looks like it came from human quarters, but it was rerouted through 3 other systems first. David frowned. Sounds like someone wants to make us look guilty. The Drexari made a sharp sound, something between a hiss and a growl. You expect us to believe in coincidence? Before Juno could reply, a soft voice behind David said, It's not coincidence, it's design. He turned. Riley was standing there, holding her own portable console. Her large violet eyes scanned the data with quiet focus. I saw the same rerouting pattern last week in the station's entertainment logs, she said calmly. Someone is testing how far they can hide their actions. They are watching the response. The Drexari narrowed their eyes. And you are? Cultural bond of David Wren, emotional emissary of species X-42, she said, standing a little taller. And I know manipulation when I feel it. David stepped beside her. She's good at reading patterns. Let her take a look. Juno hesitated, then nodded. RIL single quotes E sat cross-legged on the floor and plugged her console into the nearest access port. Lights danced across the screen. Her antennae twitched as she worked. Minutes passed. Finally, she stood and turned to the group. This was not a human error. It was made to look like one. The path doesn't end in the human sector. It ends in a shadow server in maintenance. Storage. It's a fake node. David's eyes widened. A shadow node? That's military-level deception. Juno turned to the Drexari. We request time to investigate this further. We believe someone is trying to sabotage the unity between species. The Drexari still looked tense, but nodded slowly. 1 cycle, then we want answers. Later that day, David and Riley sat in a quiet hallway near the tech wing. A repair drone floated nearby, humming softly as it patched a wall panel. Riley was quiet, her eyes watching the stars outside. David finally broke the silence. You didn't have to come help today. Riley smiled faintly. Yes, I did. We're bonded. That means standing beside each other in trouble. He nodded. You're more than I expected, Riley. She tilted her head. More emotional? Smarter, quicker, braver. Her smile grew. I told you I studied humans. But I also studied what fear looks like. Someone is afraid of this station working, afraid of peace. David looked at her. Then we find them. Together, she nodded. Together. That night, David sat at his desk, reviewing files. He kept thinking about the Drexery's face, the anger, the distrust. One false move, and this whole project could fall apart. He looked over at Riley, who was sitting on the floor with a small glowing ball of light, a toy from her homeworld. She bounced it in the air gently, lost in thought. David spoke softly. You know, back home, people don't always take aliens seriously. Riley looked up. Why not? Because we're still new to this galaxy. A lot of us are still learning. She stood and walked over. You learn fast, David Wren. That's what scares people. Scares them? Yes, humans don't quit. You love deeply, fight hard, and you protect what you care about. She looked into his eyes. That's why I chose you. He didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. They both turned to look out the window as stars passed by silently. Trouble was coming. But now they were ready for it. Together. The next day, Unity Arcadia was strangely quiet. The usual noise of walking crews, humming machines, and soft alien conversations had faded. Word of the fake security breach had spread fast, and now everyone was cautious. Too cautious, David Wren walked through the tech archives with a cold cup of coffee in his hand and 1,000 thoughts in his head. He couldn't stop thinking about what Riley had said. Someone is afraid of peace, he believed her. But he still didn't know who that someone was. Riley was already in the archives when he arrived. She was sitting at a large circular console surrounded by holographic screens. Her long fingers moved quickly across glowing symbols. Her antennae were pointed straight up, a sign that she was deeply focused. When David stepped closer, she didn't. Look up, I found something strange, she said quietly. What is it? An old file, buried in a backup system no one uses anymore. But the file isn't old, it was created only 4 days ago. David's eyes narrowed. Someone put something there and hoped no one would check. Riley nodded. It's labeled as a maintenance log, but the code is wrong. Human systems use base 10 structure. This file uses base 9. That's not human, David said. No, Riley agreed. But it pretends to be? I think someone is copying both of our styles, yours and mine, to stay hidden. David leaned over her shoulder and read the first few lines of code. His eyes widened. This isn't a log, he said. It's a signal. Riley nodded again. A quiet one? It's been sending short bursts of data out into deep space, once every 20 minutes. David took a sharp breath. They're communicating with someone outside the station. Riley looked at him, serious now. We need to find the source before they do something worse. They followed the signal trail through the inner network of the station. Most people couldn't access the deep system paths, but Riley had special permission as a Tier 2 emissary. She moved fast, guiding David through old corridors and unused panels. Finally, they reached a forgotten room deep near the power core, a small data center that hadn't been used in years. A dusty sign on the door read, Server Room Beta 9. Storage only. David drew his sidearm, just in case, and slowly pushed the door open. Inside, the room buzzed softly. Dim lights flickered above rows of machines. And at the very back, a strange-looking console glowed green. It didn't match the rest of the human or alien tech. It looked like it was patched together from both. Riley stepped forward. Someone built a custom node, half human, half X-42, just like our bond. David didn't like the sound of that. They're trying to frame us. He stepped closer to the terminal and tapped the screen. It flickered and showed a strange pattern, one that looked like a spiral of symbols. Hidden among them was something he recognized. Wait, he said, eyes widening. This isn't just data. It's a countdown. Riley's antennae snapped forward. How long? David checked the timer. 23 hours. Whatever. They're planning. It's going to happen tomorrow. She turned sharply. We have to tell command. But before they could move, the door behind them hissed closed and locked. David turned and tried the manual panel. We're sealed. Just then, a voice crackled from a speaker above them. It was low and mechanical, but still recognizable. You two are clever. Too clever. That's why you're dangerous. David raised his weapon. Who are you? You don't need to know. Just understand, the Unity project is a failure. Humans should not mix with others. It weakens both sides. True strength comes from control, not emotion. Really stood tall, eyes glowing. You fear understanding. You fear peace. That's why you hide. The voice laughed. Enjoy your final hours. You've served your purpose. Then the signal cut off. Really turned to David. We need a way out now. David looked around. The vents were too small for him, but not for Riley. You're going to have to crawl through that vent, he said, pointing. I've done it before, she said proudly. I used to hide in tunnels as a child. She climbed up quickly, antennae flattening as she disappeared into the duct. David waited, heart pounding. Minutes passed. Then click, the door slid open. Riley stood on the other side, a little dusty but smiling. Who told you I was quick? David rushed out, grabbing her hand. Come on, we need to warn Command and stop that countdown. As they ran through the halls, lights flashed overhead, signaling a new alert. But this time, David wasn't scared. He wasn't confused. He knew what he was fighting for. Trust, peace, and the strange, brave little alien who chose him. David Wren didn't stop running until he reached the central command chamber. Riley ran beside him, her small legs moving fast. Her eyes sharp and alert. Security guards blocked their path at the entrance. One stepped forward, raising a hand. Commander Leon is not seeing visitors. David flashed his ID. This is urgent. We found the source of the breach. And there's a countdown, less than 23 hours. The guard looked uncertain, then tapped his communicator. Moments law. The doors slid open. Inside, Commander Leon stood at a large holotable, surrounded by senior officers from multiple species. Maps and signals floated in the air, glowing softly. David stepped forward. Ma'am, someone built a hidden terminal deep near the power core. It's not human tech. It's a mix partially designed to match Riley's species. Riley nodded, stepping up beside him, and it's sending data to space. We found a pattern, a countdown. Something is coming. The Drexari ambassador turned sharply. You claim to have found the source of the sabotage? Yes, David said. And we believe someone's trying to blame both our species, humans, and X-42s. The room fell silent for a moment. Then Leon spoke. Show us. Within the hour, a full security team followed David and Riley to the abandoned server room. The strange hybrid terminal was still glowing green. Commander Leon examined the countdown with her own eyes. We have 21 hours left, she said. What happens when it ends? David shrugged. We don't know yet. But judging by the signal strength and design, it's not just a message. It could activate a ship or a weapon. A silence followed his words. Riley walked closer to the terminal. Her fingers gently moved over the console. Her eyes widened. There's a second layer, she said softly, encrypted deep inside. David moved beside her. Can you break it? Not alone. But with you, yes. Your systems think differently. Logical, mine are emotional and intuitive. We need both. Leon gave a sharp nod. Do it now. David and Riley sat cross-legged in front of the terminal, side by side. A projection lit their faces, symbols, numbers, moving code. As they worked, the room grew quiet. Even the security team stood still. It wasn't easy. Every time they broke one layer of the code, another one appeared, twisting and hiding itself. David's fingers flew across the keyboard. Riley's glowing hands moved across her own interface, reading patterns. Faster than most machines could, she whispered. It's like a living thing. It's reacting to us, David nodded. Whoever built this is clever. They didn't just write code, they taught it how to adapt. Minutes passed, then an hour. The room grew warmer as systems heated up. Sweat rolled down David's temple. Riley's breathing grew faster, her antennae twitching. Almost there, she said softly. Suddenly the screen changed. A new window opened. A message appeared. Unity cannot be forced. Diversity breeds division. This station must fall. And then, a second countdown began. 10 minutes. Everyone in the room stared in shock. David jumped to his feet. It's going to trigger something now, Early. Commander Leon gave a sharp command. Emergency protocol. All hands to alert stations. Riley's voice was calm but firm. I can stop it, but only from inside. I need to connect my mind to the system. David grabbed her arm. That's dangerous. She looked at him, her eyes serious. I was made for connection. My kind feels deeper than others. I can calm it, disable the logic with emotion. You could get hurt, she smiled, and you always protect, but now, let me protect you. Before he could argue, she placed her hands on the terminal and closed her eyes. Light poured from the machine. Her body glowed slightly, her antennae wrapped in soft energy. The room filled with a hum low and steady. David knelt beside her, watching as the countdown froze. 0 hours 9 minutes and 52 seconds. 0 hours 9 minutes and 51 seconds. 0 hours 9 minutes and 50 seconds. Then dash stopped. The light vanished. Riley slumped forward. David caught her before she fell. Really? Hey, are you okay? She opened her eyes slowly. Just tired. I didn't break it. I soothed it. The system doesn't want to fight now. Commander Leon stepped forward. You calmed Code? With emotion? She's X-42, David said softly. They don't just think, they feel. An hour later, Riley rested in the medical wing. David sat beside her, watching her sleep. When she finally opened her eyes, he smiled. You saved everyone, she blinked slowly. You helped. You were my strength. David reached for her hand. This time, she didn't let go. Outside, Unity Arcadia returned to life. Lights brightened, doors opened, and tension slowly faded. But David knew one thing clearly now. This wasn't just about saving the station. It was about learning how to trust across worlds. The next morning, Unity Arcadia was peaceful but not quiet. News of the stopped countdown had spread across the station. Delegates from every species were sending messages of thanks, and some even offered help to find the one responsible for the sabotage. But for David Wren, peace didn't feel complete. Yet, someone had tried to destroy the station and blame humans and X-42s, and while the attack was stopped, the person behind it was still free. David stood outside the medical wing, waiting. Inside, Riley rested, her skin a bit pale, her energy still low. She had spent hours calming the hostile Code. Her people could connect emotionally with technology, but it took strength, and it left her exhausted. When the door opened, David stepped inside. Riley sat up slowly and smiled. I'm okay. Really? He gave her a small smile. I brought you something. He handed her a small human device, a music player. He had loaded it with calm sounds from Earth, rain, soft winds, gentle ocean waves. Riley touched it gently. So much emotion in your sounds? David sat beside her. Emotion saved the station, Riley tilted her head. And now, emotion must guide us again. I felt something strange in the system before I disconnected, a memory, but not mine. David frowned. A memory? Yes, not words, but a feeling, cold, empty, like someone who never felt they belonged. David looked at her carefully. You think the person behind this attack was someone on the station? I don't just think it, Riley said quietly. I felt it. Later that day, David and Riley visited the communication logs room. With permission from Commander Leon, they had access to hidden system archives. David scanned through video logs. Riley watched code patterns flow across the screen. Looking for unusual energy spikes, after an hour, Riley paused. There, she said, pointing. A strange movement flickered on the screen. A figure, wearing a worker's uniform, stepped into the shadows near the power core entrance. The video was blurry, but something was off. The person didn't walk like a normal worker. They moved carefully, always avoiding security cameras. David zoomed in. It's someone from the cleaning crew, he muttered. I've seen that uniform before, but they're not on today's schedule. Riley pulled up staff records. This ID doesn't match any real person. It's a stolen identity. David stood up. Then we find them. Today. With the help of security officers, David and Riley searched the lower levels of the station. These were areas most people didn't visit: dark maintenance halls, storage units, old systems that hadn't been upgraded in years. They moved carefully, flashlights sweeping through the darkness. At last, they found a locked door with a flickering panel. Riley placed her hand on the lock. The system hummed, then opened. Inside, they found a small living space hidden behind equipment racks. Someone had been staying here alone: a sleeping mat, food packs, a small terminal. Riley sat by the console. David stood behind her, guarding the door. Then she gasped. "What is it?" he asked. "This terminal doesn't just hold data, it holds memories." She activated the display. A series of video logs played. They showed the same person, always with a hood, talking softly into the camera. "They never let me speak. They always said I wasn't important. But I am. I understand more than they think. This station is a lie. Peace is a lie. I'll prove it." David watched in silence. The saboteur wasn't a military officer, not a leader. Just someone who felt forgotten, Riley said softly. They weren't evil. Just lost, lonely, David nodded. But loneliness turned into hate. "That's dangerous." She looked up at him. "You're not alone now." He gave a small smile. "Neither are you." They brought the recordings to Commander Leon with the evidence. Station security was able to locate the saboteur near the outer hull. A quiet arrest was made. No violence. No blame. Later, David and Riley sat in the garden dome, one of the few green places on the station. Around them, trees swayed gently, and artificial sunlight warmed their faces. Riley plucked a soft blue flower and held it close. "I used to think being assigned to a human was just duty," she said. "And now?" David asked. "Now I understand. It was a chance to learn something rare." He looked at her. "What's that?" She smiled. "That two hearts from different stars can still beat together," David chuckled. "That's poetic." "I like it," Riley touched his hand. "And it's true." Above them, the glass roof showed a wide view of space. Stars sparkled in the black sky, quiet and endless. For the first time in days, the future didn't feel uncertain. It felt full of hope. 1 week after the threat was stopped, Unity Arcadia had returned to normal. The halls were filled with quiet conversation, shared laughter, and peaceful cooperation between species once again. Repairs had been completed, and the new security systems had been updated, but for David, Wren, and Riley, nothing was quite the same. They had changed. Together, David now walked the halls with a deeper sense of purpose. He was no longer just a human officer assigned to a peace mission. He had become part of something larger, something personal. Riley, too, had grown. She was still the same small, bright-eyed alien with curious antennae and a gentle voice, but she was stronger, now more confident. She had proved her worth not through weapons or orders, but through trust, intelligence, and heart. They had saved Unity Arcadia. But more than that, they had saved each other. On the day of the Unity celebration, every member of the station gathered in the main dome. The ceiling above them opened to reveal the stars. Lights shimmered, banners waved, and soft music played. From both human and alien instruments, Commander Leon stood on stage, speaking clearly to the crowd. "We stand together today, not because we are the same, but because we are different. And it is our differences that make us stronger." The crowd clapped. Some nodded. Some smiled. She continued. "And two individuals reminded us of that truth. A human officer, David Wren, and an X-42 emissary, Riley." Everyone turned to look at them. David stood straight. Riley tilted her head shyly, then raised one hand in greeting. The crowd clapped again, louder this time. Riley leaned toward David and whispered, "I'm still not used to attention." He grinned. "Get used to it. You earned it." She smiled, glowing softly from the praise. Later, under the stars, David and Riley walked alone through the observation deck. "I heard they're thinking of making our team permanent," David said. "Not just for Unity Arcadia, but for other joint missions?" Riley turned to him, surprised. "You mean out there? Across different planets?" "Yeah," he nodded. "They want human X-42 pairs, your people and mine?" working side by side. Really was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "That means we started something new." David looked out at the stars. "Funny, isn't it? They assigned you to me like you were a task, but you became something more." She tilted her head. "A friend?" He nodded. "A partner, a light in the dark," really stepped closer. "And you became my steady ground? You believed in me when others did not." They stood quietly for a moment, listening to the low hum of the ship around them. Then really said, "In my culture, when two beings share danger, trust, and growth, we give a sign." She reached into her small travel pouch and pulled out a tiny glowing stone. It was smooth, round, and soft blue, almost like a drop of moonlight. "This is a bond crystal," she explained. "It means you carry a part of my heart wherever you go." David stared at it, touched beyond words. "I don't have anything." "That's special to give back," he said softly, really looked up at him. "You already gave something. You listened." He took the stone gently. "I'll protect this, always." As the stars slowly moved above them, the two stood side by side. No orders, no missions. Just understanding they had been strangers, assigned by protocol, separated by species, culture, and belief. But in the end, none of that mattered. What mattered was trust, friendship, and the silent promise that no matter where they came from or where they went, they would face the stars together. Epilogue months later. In a quiet part of the galaxy, a small joint vessel flew between distant stars. On board were humans and X-42s, working side by side. Learning, building, protecting. Among them were David, and really no longer just assigned partners, but leaders of a new future. One built not by force but by choice, one formed not by power, but by connection, and wherever they went, stories followed, of a tiny alien who smiled, and the human who smiled back.